Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I'm honored to have Whitney Jones with me. Whitney is the owner of Pro Physiques, and she is a three-time Miss Olympian winner. She's also the author of When Broken, and one thing I think you're going to hear in her story is you can have an idea of how you want life to go, but inevitably there will be twists and turns, and sometimes it even ends up better than you could have imagined. So, Whitney, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you. I'm honored. This is going to be a fun little recording here because obviously you're full of energy and this is exciting. And I appreciate you reaching out.
Absolutely. So to start your journey, growing up, you had two brothers, and anyone that knows having brothers means there's going to be an element of competition that happens. So talk a little bit about growing up in that environment, and maybe things you did as kids and how the competitive nature was born.
Well, yeah. I mean, with two older brothers, I was the little sister that was just kind of that pesky, like, come on, you're so annoying, get away. Now, I came from a great family. I was so fortunate to have that. But again, I'm a little sister. So, in order to actually allow my brothers or for my brothers to allow me to hang out with them, it was like, well, they would give me these challenges. You got to do this in order to hang out with us, which, of course, competition is huge in my family.
Yeah.
And I was always down for it. So at a very young age, I ended up having this like drive and competition to always prove people wrong. And so I do owe it to my brothers, but they would throw crazy challenges like learn a no-handed cartwheel. And if you get that, then you can hang out with us for literally like one day. So it would take weeks. But then they would have to let me hang out with them. And long story short, it created this daredevil and this no fear in me as a child that now has, helped me to take risks in business, to take risks as an athlete, and honestly, to kind of set that mind frame that like anything's possible.
I love it. Now, as you're growing up, you end up going to Arizona State, and you kind of have this idea in your mind. Hey, I want to get married, I want to start a family, and I want to get a job, and that's really what I envisioned. So, talk a little about going to Arizona State, the degree, and after you finish up going and getting married and starting the job.
Yeah, I grew up, my parents were still married, which I know is not a very common thing these days, but it was the standard life. You go to high school, you work, you get a job when you're 16, you figure out a way to pay for your own college, you graduate, get married, have a job, and you stay in the job for the rest of your life. I mean, that was kind of the path that my brothers and I were raised to follow. Well, I was doing that, and again, in true competition spirit. There was a challenge that my dad said, "Oh, do you think you could graduate with honors?" And my brothers had never done that. No one in my family had. So I was like, yeah, which was good. I mean, it showed that true work ethic of really striving. I ended up graduating with honors, summa cum laude, which was I'm super proud of. And then it was like, okay, what's next? What's next? Well, I was excited. I got my degree in business, went into marketing, but I was an athlete my whole life and wanted to still continue that. So I was still active doing challenges, here and there with endurance type events, mini sprint triathlons, marathons, and of course, just still being active. And then it was a matter of, okay, I'm going to get married my high school sweetheart, had two kids, and did a pivot in my career from advertising into fitness because that's where my pure passion was. And I loved the aspect of helping people transform, helping them believe in themselves and realize their full potential, and making sure they take care of their own health because it has that trickle down effect to family, friends, coworkers, kids. So I felt that that was my calling and
Yeah.
just followed that path. And it's been the best change to go, all right, I love doing this. I get to get up every day and do something that truly makes a positive impact in at least one person's life every single day.
I love that. Now, I think, in your story, something that we oftentimes realize is we don't realize how much we appreciate something until we can't have that something. And in your second pregnancy, you had that exact thing happen. So talk a little bit about that, and then also just having had that experience, now as you're working with different folks and helping them, get in shape or get into peak shape, the importance of, hey, having your health.
Yeah. So on my second pregnancy, I was on bed rest, and
Yeah.
I'm not the type person. I'm full of energy, so people are shocked to know you were on bed rest for 3.5 months, and I was. I mean, and you have to think about it. 3.5 months on bed rest, you have a lot of time to think. What I realized was the ability to move, the ability to be active, I had always taken for granted. Now, I was fortunate that I loved activity, and my body craved it. And during those 3.5 months, I mean, it was strict bed rest. I couldn't even sit up and watch TV. I had to lay flat. I could allow my chin to move, but if I sat up, I would go into full blown contractions. I would
Wow.
have to actually go to the hospital. So it was a very stressful time, but yet I did realize this is temporary. I at the end get this amazing reward of a healthy, sweet baby boy, and thankfully it did turn out that way.
Yeah.
But I was in the hospital, I think 14 times before I was able to deliver just to stop the contractions. And every time going to the hospital, I would get in the car and it was like I would see people walking or going for a jog or playing with their kids in the park. And I thought, the world takes the ability to move for granted. Like, this is crazy. And that's where I made that pivot to go, I love my job and marketing and working at the ad agency, but this is my purpose. And
Yeah.
I had been training friends, family, and myself at a gym in my garage, just this janky little setup. But I'd been helping friends and family for free, just for the love of it. And it
Yeah.
helped keep me accountable as well. So I thought, this is my calling. And I literally quit my amazing job. After I had my son, I said, you know what? I'm going to actually go get a job making minimum wage as a personal
Yeah.
trainer and figure it out. And that's honestly exactly what happened. And I haven't turned back since. It was scary going, I just literally left this secure job, making great income, tons of potential. And when I remember the first time I got my paycheck, I went, oh my gosh, what did I do? I have 2 kids at home now. What the heck? But there was never truly a doubt that I wouldn't figure it out. It was
Yeah.
just something I knew in my heart, like, this is my path, this is my direction.
I love that. Now, someone listening right now is saying, if only I could have that bold step like Whitney had, hey, I'm in a job and I've been doing it 10 years, 15 years. I'm good at it. It's a comfortable income, but I'm just not passionate about it. What would be your word of encouragement to someone that's in that space and wanting to take a step into something else?
The point is, like you just said, you have to have that passion and drive, because
Yeah.
nothing worthwhile is ever easy. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, granted, you win the lottery and that just falls in your lap, great. But that happens to
Yeah.
very few people.
Yep.
And in life, the people, if you look at anyone who's truly successful, everyone has those people they admire, and success is defined on multiple levels. It's
Yep.
not always money, and a lot of people think it is, but their happiness, the things that they have in their life, how easily they skirt through life. What is it that makes those people successful? They're passionate about what they're doing it with purpose. And I feel like when that happens, things just fall in line.
Yeah.
If it's not something you're passionate about, it's just a matter of time before things kind of blow up. And then
Yep.
you're having to start over. But you've got to take those risks. Nothing in life that's truly rewarding comes without a little bit of risk.
I love that. Now, the second part is, and I'm sure there were certain people that supported this idea. There were probably other people that were like, Whitney, what the heck are you doing? Like, you
Yeah.
got a great job, right? Like, just keep running that and do this thing on the side.
Yeah.
So how do you, encourage someone that's kind of balancing those different voices, right? Some that are supporting the idea, some that are not. And they, once again, they're feeling this tug to go do something. How do you
Yeah.
listen to the supportive ones and once again, be, appreciative of the comments that are maybe
Sure.
against what you're thinking, but ultimately not allow that to cause doubt and then the lack of a step.
I think the biggest thing is you have to recognize there will be challenges. It's not going to be a straight path to, your road to success, your road to happiness.
Yeah.
Knowing that that's coming is going to help set you up for success. Because again, no matter what, you're going to have people in your life who doubt you, who
Yep.
want you to play it safe, who are haters, and you have
Hmm.
to be able to be strong in your direction and in your path, and more importantly, believing in yourself. And I
Yeah.
always say, go back to the thought of the worst thing in life that I feel is having to live with regret, having to live with the fact of what if. We
Yeah.
all typically have to have a job. Bills
Yeah.
aren't just paid, we don't have money trees sprouting in our backyard. So if you're going to do something that takes up a large part of your life, find something that you love, find something that you're passionate about. So why not have it be something that you choose versus going and just getting a job that's, for somebody that you don't have much control. So if you're going to do something for the rest of your life, take the risk. Try it out and recognize that some of the biggest lessons in life are failures. I mean, again, a lot of people who are highly successful, they've been knocked down, but they came back up. They found a way to still survive and then thrive. So
Well,
take the risk. You never want to have that regret. And think about, if as parents, I have two boys now, so it's like
yeah.
I want my boys to dream big. When we're
Yeah.
children, you ask a young child, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be the president of the United States. No one says, nope, you can't.
Yep.
You would never do that to a child. But yet, as we get older, the world tends to tell us we can't achieve things. And then
Yep.
it plants that doubt and it kills our confidence or our drive. I want people to think and live like a child where anything is within reach. So, as a parent, I want my kids to have that thought. I have to model it myself. It's not just talk the talk. I got to walk the walk too. I've got to take those risks. I've got to show them that nothing happens without hard work, dedication, relentless pursuit of my goals. So, modeling that behavior is something that you can give back to others, whether it's your children, family, friends, whoever it is. You always want the best for everyone, right? That's what people want. So, encourage it by modeling it.
It's so good. I love it. So, as you're working minimum wage, transitioning career, at one point you decide, well, maybe I should open my own business instead of working for someone. So, talk a bit about getting the experience, of the industry, but then ultimately deciding to start your own business.
So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Ever since I was a kid, I was always hustling and trying to figure out some unique, cool way that I could make money. Or, I didn't grow up with a family that had a lot of money. So if we wanted to go do something on the weekends when we were in high school and even through college, I had to pay for it all. So I was constantly on that hustle, right?
Hmm.
So I always knew I wanted to open my own business, but it's like when I was younger, high school, college years, it was like I needed to figure it out. And so I finally had said, I just got to give up. Like when you force something, it
Yep.
doesn't usually happen the way it should. And you want things to be natural. So I just finally had said, you know what? It's going to happen. Until that point, I'm just going to follow what makes me happy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, I started as a personal trainer, loved it. And then within a year, an opportunity came up to partner with someone and
Hmm.
create a business. And I thought, this is it. And so I went to the meeting just kind of knowing, oh, let's pan this out, but it just sparked something. And thank
Yeah.
goodness, I had some business background from college. I went home that night, wrote a 38-page business plan. I had the 5-year plan ready to go. How are we getting funding? How are we going to market? What is our break even analysis? Like laid it all out,
Yeah.
which I'd never done. I'd never put together a business plan
Wow.
before. But that's when I thought, this is right. This is a good fit. How did this all come to me? Obviously you do those projects in college and
Yeah.
in school, but it was like it just came to me. And nowadays, with Chat GPT and all these things you can find online, you could write a business plan, or heck, you could have it written for you.
Right.
Right? But it's like that for me was that like defining moment of I'm going in the right direction. And again, I didn't know, I'd never owned a business. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I was excited about it. I was passionate about it. And I knew I didn't want to just work at a gym as a personal trainer forever. And I didn't know how opening this first business would kind of elevate me and springboard me into other opportunities, but I wasn't worried about that. It was like, okay, this is exciting. Let's do this now. What comes will come. And
I
it
love
just
it.
allowed more opportunities.
Well, and to your comment on opportunities, one day when working out, and you had been more in the running, the marathons, triathlons world. One day when working out, you had somebody say to you, "Hey, I don't know that you could do the competition world," and you said, "All right, well, challenge accepted." So,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about getting introduced to that world of working out, and then the springboard that was for that.
Yeah, it was, again, with my two older brothers, I was always down for a challenge. And I didn't know what the person was talking about, but I had been at the gym, just working out at not my own. And there was someone that was, I made a comment of, gosh, there's so many people like suddenly like really getting tight and toned and lean and they look amazing. And someone said, well, yeah, you could never do that. Now, I didn't know what it was, and it was just kind of one of those things of, yeah, I could. I didn't know what they were even referencing. I mean, it could have been boxing Mike Tyson, it could have been, underwater basket weaving, who knows? But I was like, I could do it. And they're like, fine, you got 4 months, there's an event. And it was like, okay, yeah. And then I turned to my friend, like, what did I just sign up for? But again, it was
Yeah.
that doubt and that fire of, I could try anything. And so I did, and it was in the sport of bodybuilding. Now, I'm not a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I'm a fitness athlete where they do judge your physique, but I don't get on stage, I don't flex. Um, and my specific division is a performance. So one third is based on how fit you are. So you walk out in this blinged out bikini, and it's kind of like a Buff Barbie competition, for lack of a better explanation. And then you have to do a 2 minute performance. And it can be anything, your whole creative process. You choose your music, your theme, your costume, and you have 2 minutes. There are some mandatory moves, but it's dance, choreography, flipping, plyometric push ups, all sorts of tricks. And my niche that I decided to go into was breakdancing eventually. But
Yeah.
I loved this challenge of having this creative outlet that I
Yeah.
could pour into and come up with whatever I wanted. Now, I
Mhm.
have no formal gymnastics training. And so jumping into a sport in a division like this was like, what are you doing, lady? Plus, I got started late in life. I started when I was 34.
Yeah.
So this, I had zero expectations, but I honestly do equate that to my success.
Yeah.
Had I maybe been more experienced, I would have had this pressure on myself to achieve, to win. For me, I loved the challenge and I loved that I had a goal to work towards. And I
Hmm.
didn't care about that outcome. It kept me in shape. And then, of course, at that point, I was a gym owner and I felt this is a good way to encourage other clients to go after their goals, go after their dreams. But I ended up doing well, turned pro, and then it was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Then
Yeah.
there's the Olympia, which is like the Super Bowl of our sport. And I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. Maybe one day I could go to the Olympia, not even just like be on stage, just attend it.
Yeah.
And I got to attend it and then ended up qualifying for it. Long story short, fast forward a few years, I win it. And it's like, what the heck? And again, no mom had ever even won the Olympia. I was the first mom ever. And I thought, this is crazy. Again, we are not appreciating the ability of what we can do
Mm.
as humans, as athletes, as moms. Like, we all need to level up and go, what if? What if I could do this? And then try it.
Yeah.
So my experience as an athlete was just a total random coincidence, accepting a dare, believing in myself because I loved this goal and this constant challenge. So it's been a crazy, fun, unexpected journey.
Now, within that, to your point, I love that you just are willing to step into something, right? I
Yeah.
think um, And you talked about with your business, and I guess I'm going to highlight it with your, fitness or competition journey, but it's like so many people say, I've got to have this perfect business plan before I can even step into it. And there's an element of preparation that is wise to do, right?
Right.
You should do some form of preparation, but there's also an element of don't wait until you have all of the specific answers until you try
Yeah.
to start something, because it'll probably just never happen.
It'll never
And
happen.
and I think on the competition side for you, you could have come up with, well, yeah, first I need to go learn how to do this type of dance, and then I need to figure out the perfect, diet, and then I need to figure out the perfect, type of workouts for this type of competition. But what you did is you go, I'll figure it out as I go. So talk a little bit about, stepping into something and say, all right, I know enough to get started, but I'm willing to just kind of figure it out along the way.
Well, there's no better teacher in life than like really going all in and having to
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, honestly, because if you put yourself where your back's against a wall, you have to figure it out. Now, it
Hmm.
may not be the ideal outcome, but it's almost like step out of your comfort zone. Nobody wants to live this status quo life. Or if they do, I guarantee you they regret it later on going, why didn't I? Right?
Yeah.
So it is. It's scary, but some of the most exciting, thrilling moments in life are when you step into something you don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it again as a parent. Your first time as a parent, you have zero idea what you're getting into. But crazy enough, all like how many people in the world want to be parents one day, right?
Yep.
Well, that
Yep.
is something completely unknown. I look at that as okay, I want to be a business owner. You got to start somewhere. You're going to have to own one business at least to get to your second or third. If you want to try a new sport, you've got to go that first day and figure it out. And you never know what kind of joy or love you're going to get in life unless you throw yourself in, go all in, and then figure it out in the process. Again, whether it's trying a sport or starting a business, you don't have to love it, and then you can pivot and go a different direction if you're not fully all in. But how will you know? I mean, some of the coolest things in life are just taking that risk or taking that meeting or taking that dare where you uncover something that really brings out something in you that you didn't even know existed.
I love it. Now, to that point, not even knowing something existed, and I know we kind of briefly went through your entire journey, but my guess is at some point there either became, a coach or a fellow competitor that really helped you see something that maybe you didn't even know was possible in you. And, maybe talk a little bit about that in your journey in the competition side of things, and, having people say, hey, maybe you could actually win the Olympia, not just compete locally or not just compete here.
Well, to be honest, it was kind of weird because, again, I didn't know much about this sport. I had never met any girl who had ever competed in the division I'd competed in. So, in a way, that was the best way to learn for me
Yeah.
because I was on my own. And the
Yeah.
first show I did, I got on stage and did my little fitness routine, and the judges, came off afterwards and gave me some feedback. Now I did win it. I won the overall. I was the only person in the class, but I won. But they came and they said, "You're so fun to watch on stage, and you can tell you're having a blast up there, but you have no idea what you're doing, right?" And I was like, "Uh-uh." So the judges were like, "Well, go on this website. There are certain requirements. There's a limit with music. You have to do certain skills." That was literally my teacher in the sport.
Yeah.
So, but again, I didn't know what I was doing. But then I started doing some research, understanding what a typical fitness routine looked like. I had the background in regards to how to diet and get myself in shape and what workouts to do. But it was more in the division, like what do you do? How do you become one of these athletes who sets the standard? Well, not knowing any of the background, and of course having to be self-taught with gymnastic skills and not having any background there, I was always a little different. And I do remember there was two people, Oksana Grishina, who was top of the game. She was a pro athlete who I admired with her routines, as well as Jennifer Hendershot, who had won as well. And both of these ladies had been champions. And they both had mentioned to me at one point, you're not like all of us. You're very different, and that's amazing. Don't change that. And I thought, really? Because everyone else, you'd hear the noise in the industry of, yeah, if you want to do well, you got to conform. You got to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be like everyone else. So I was fine just doing my own thing. But then to have two people who were champions in our sport, in our division, recognize you're not conforming. You're not doing what everyone is telling you to do to get to the top, and that's why you will get there. And just having that encouragement was like, wow, really? Okay. So stay in my lane, keep being me. Again, no one wants to just be in the mix. If you're
Yeah.
going to do something, you want to do it big, you want to be different.
Yeah.
Like, how can you stand apart to really shine in whatever you're doing? So that was, a really big boost of confidence to go, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this because I love it. I'm not doing it to win. But then to have two champions say to me, you're going to be Miss Olympia one day. And I thought, what? That's crazy. You guys are crazy, but I'm still just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes. Now, one thing, as you're having success here, I would imagine that's a great thing for the business, right? When you have proof in your pudding, people want to, naturally attract to that. So talk a little bit about as your, competition is growing and you're having success there, how that impacted the business.
It definitely, brought some eyes on the different things I was doing because I have multiple fitness businesses. So, I am a show promoter here in Arizona and I put on these competitions for athletes. I run Unstoppable 365. So that is teaching people all over the world, lifestyle clients as well as high level executives, how to create that balance in their life, how to get their health and wellness on track while also leveling up personally, professionally. We do hormone optimization, so we have the medical side taken care of. So really, truly making an impact in people's lives and speaking engagements, my book. So having that as, being an athlete in the sport and being on magazines and, interviews and of course stepping on the Olympia stage that's broadcast worldwide brought some eyes on me.
Yeah.
But more importantly, one of the coolest things was that they would always say she was the first mom to ever win Miss Olympia. That's amazing because people, it's cool to be a champ, right? To say like, oh, I've won this. But what did you do with that? What to me defines a real true champion is what you do with that accomplishment. I don't care for people to say, oh, that's so cool. My gosh, you're Miss Olympia. I mean, I'm very proud of it, but how does that relate to you?
Yeah.
The one thing with me is that my story is, number one, I got started late in it. I won my first Olympia at 41, which again is kind of unheard of. I'm competing against 20-year-olds. I've broken, being a daredevil child and just growing up, I've broken almost every bone in my body. I've had 18 surgeries. In competing, I broke my neck. Still came back from that. I broke my neck the year before I won my first world championship title. So my biggest thing is, how am I inspiring you? How has my example impacted you to help you go, man, if she can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
And that's what I want. As for being a champion, I want to be able to say, because of what I did, because of the risks I took, the path I chose, I've inspired someone else to find and realize their own greatness within. So that's the best thing about, I think, being a top champion is it allows you a platform that you would never have ever had. So eyes are on you, but what do you do with that attention? What do you do when people are looking at you? Are you just taking it all in like, yeah, I think I'm great, please tell me how amazing? Or are you doing something to give back and truly better the world, to use your story and your path as an example? That's the coolest thing to me about what I achieved as Miss Olympia.
I love it. Now, talking about your story and impacting others, If you're watching this, you can see behind her that it says When Broken, which is the book. If not, we're going to put this in the show notes to go check out the book. But talk a little bit about the inspiration behind it, and then really, what maybe a couple key takeaways from the book for folks.
Sure. So, 4 years ago, I was approached with a book deal. And it was flattering, but I thought, I'm not an author. I do not even love writing. And why would people want to hear my story, right?
Yeah.
So it was just very awkward. I got the offer and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Thanks. Yeah, sure, let's do it. And sat on it until finally it was like, okay, what am I doing? So what really sparked this was, there's a lot of media attention in our sport. And I was on this documentary called Generation Iron 3. And they documented my journey from when I broke my neck. 9 months later, I had this goal to step on stage. So it was kind of chronicling and like detailing my entire journey to the stage. Well, ironically, 4 weeks before the show, while I'm trying to do everything to get back to stage after I broke my neck, I ended up tearing my ACL. So it was like, oh my gosh, this girl, she can't catch a break. She needs to just call it a day. Her career is over. Yeah. Well, people knew about my neck because I'd been, obviously documenting the journey. But when I tore my ACL, there was a moment of, how am I going to do this? I mean, I am in this division where you have to do a 2-minute routine, explosive. Once I had my neck surgery, so I have a 12-piece metal cage in my neck, my upper body strength was totally compromised. Stability, strength, coordination, everything was kind of done. But I could do some. But my whole point going into the show was I've got lower body strength. I'm explosive. I can flip without hands. Well, when I tore my ACL, I'm like, okay, I have no real upper body strength and I have one leg. What the heck am I going to do? So, I went to my surgeon the day after and got results from my MRI, and he said, Whit, you got to have surgery. You tore your ACL, you tore your MCL, your meniscus is torn. Like, this is not good. So I said, all right, but it's going to have to wait 4 weeks. I'll do the surgery the day after the competition. And the reason being is it was like, I've worked so hard, and there was no one. When I broke my neck, I kept searching and was on forums and blogs. I wanted to see a story of someone who came back. There was nothing. And I thought, I need to be that story. If someone has the same type neck injury where it's pretty catastrophic and it's scary, they need to have one story that when they Google, they can go, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So, that was my motivation to do it. Well, I did. And like I said, Generation Iron 3 was kind of documenting it. One of the reasons, to go back to your question on the book, was there was a son from a lady who reached out to me, and her son had torn her ACL. He was a high school athlete, and I talk about this. I share this story in my book. He had torn his ACL. He had dreams of the NFL, was being, recruited by tons of colleges. When he tore his ACL, he was devastated, like depressed, would not come out of his room. Yeah. There was nothing his friends, family could do, and they were just kind of at a loss, like, we can't help him. One day, he came out of his room and he had this renewed motivation, like unstoppable. I've got this, was going to rehab. Long story short, he ended up coming back his senior year, had an amazing season, got recruited, went on to play college football. And his mom ended up finding out. He saw my story on Generation Iron 3. And it changed it. And there was nothing. Here, I'm a stranger. I'm this older lady to this young high school kid that found motivation and inspiration. So as I had sat on that almost, it was about 9-10 months from, being offered the book deal, I thought, I need to do this. I need to share the story. That was such a powerful experience to know that I could impact some stranger in that way, to build him out of this deep, dark depression. Yeah. So I thought, okay, I need to share my story, as ridiculous as it is. So I did, and When Broken is about, we're all broken. We all have flaws. Nobody is perfect. But once you realize we're all in the same playing field now, we all are a little broken. But what sets those people apart who really thrive in life versus those who just survive is they've mastered the art of winning broken. So that goes to obviously my physical breaks in my body, the problems and comebacks I've had to have with business, the setbacks in my personal life. We're all a little broken, but there is a way you can take every opportunity and flip it and change it into something where you can discover your own greatness and go for it. And so this book was a 4-year process, completely scratched, started over 3 different times. But I wanted the book to be, number one, entertaining because I have such a quirky, goofy, ridiculous personality. I'm like, this book can't be so serious. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even read it if that were the case. But I also wanted it to have an impact. So every chapter, after each chapter, it has a your turn section. So I share stories of my own personal experience with, either a broken bone or, broken relationship, a broken deal in business. And I
Yeah.
talk about the lesson I learned in that. And then I want the reader to apply it to their own life. For example, addressing fear. How do you face fear head on? We all have fears that stop us and prevent us from taking that risk or taking that leap. So, for example, in that chapter, it says, right now, in this very moment, what is your biggest fear? What is it you want to achieve? But you're allowing fear to prevent you from moving forward. Now
Yeah.
think about what would happen if you did do it. What could go right? Also, what couldn't go right? Let's address it all. And
Yep.
that, to me, is a way to help people take my story, take my lessons, and apply it to their own life where it really creates action to improve their own life and their own goals.
That's great. I love that. Now, for just using the story that you mentioned of you, but also the high schooler that saw your story, there's the moment in life for so many people where it's either I'm down and I'm out, or I'm going to use this as, a launching pad to the next thing. What is it about the mindset piece, or what can people be doing from a mindset standpoint to get into that? Hey, I'm not going to let this, be more than a setback, right? That's all it is. It's a setback. It's not the end of it.
Yeah. So I have a motto I live by, and I discuss it in my book. It's called H2G2. And I have it plastered all over my house, in my boys' bedrooms, in every bathroom, you name it. And you'll see H2G2. What that means is you don't have to, you get to. And that
Yeah.
alone, just that mindset is a shift. Again, we're all going to be handed some lemons in life. Life is going to throw curveballs. You have to be able to look at any situation, any circumstance, and go, okay, how am I dealing with this? And then
Yeah.
look at even the simple day-to-day functions. Like, what do you have to do today? Oh, I have to go to work. No, you get to go to work. You're
Yeah.
lucky to have a job. Not everyone has that. I have to go pick up my child from school. Well, you don't have to, you get to. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have kids or to have a vehicle to go pick up their child. So you got to take the negative connotation out of whatever it is that is your daily kind of bring down moment and flip the script. Turn it
Yeah.
into a positive. It's a different mindset shift that can totally pivot and change the course of your day, change the course of your thinking. So it's also a matter of going, okay, there's people who would trade places with me in a heartbeat. And I always challenge people to say, think about where you're at and what's really upsetting you or how you're feeling. Do you think someone would want to trade spots with you? I guarantee I don't care how bad you feel your circumstance is, there is always one person in the world who would trade anything to
Yeah.
have your problems. And so it's a very powerful thing, and it's not the easiest approach to take. But when you're in a dark place, it's up to you to find a way out. You don't want to stay there, and it's not easy. And depression is a massive issue, and sometimes you need true, like, professionals to help. Sometimes it's a matter of getting on medication to help kind of dig you out of that. And that's fair. But at the very least, it's up to you to try and create that action. And the easiest thing I say is if you're ever having a bad day, do good for others. Doing something good makes you feel good. And a lot of times that's kind of that first step out of that dark place. Because
Yeah.
we all like to feel good about what we're doing. And sometimes it's a simple smile to a stranger. and they smile back. It's so simple. But something as small as that can totally change the trajectory of your day and put you into a better mood and a better place where you realize, okay, I can do that. I just cheered that person up, talking to a stranger, sending someone who's in need or could use a comforting word, a simple text. It doesn't have to be complex.
I love that. Now, in addition, you talk about taking small steps, and I think the world of fitness, the world of getting in shape, right? Everyone wants to go from where they're at to the photo that they remember themselves as or the photo they saw. And the reality is, unfortunately, that just isn't how getting in shape works or getting to your physical fitness goals is. You've obviously shown extreme discipline and consistency to get to where you're at. Talk to somebody that's just starting that health journey or that fitness journey and say, hey, you got to start with the small steps to get to the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and it is hard for a lot of clients. They'll say, "Oh, you were back in high school, I blah blah blah," and you're going, "Well, that was 20 years ago. How are we going to find this happy medium?" You have to start small, and I think the biggest hindrance for a lot of people is they think, "Okay, I want to get fit, I want to get healthy, but I don't have 2 hours a day to spend at the gym."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You shouldn't. If you're spending 2 hours at the gym, you're doing it wrong. But a lot of times it's that first step, walking around the neighborhood, getting out, having the fresh air, listening to an amazing playlist that kind of lights you up or calms you down. It's the simple things that's just that consistency of showing up. And then your body naturally starts craving more of it. When you feel good, your body wants to feel good. So when you're not, and then of course, if you're doing it consistently, you take some days off and you realize, gosh, I just don't feel like myself. Well, you've got to just start doing it. And it's in those moments when no one's watching that's the most powerful. The days when you're super tired, when you're not feeling well, and you're like, you know what, I can't go to the gym and push through a 45-minute or 60-minute workout. But what I can do is go for a walk around the block.
Yep.
5 minutes. The fact that you do it gives you that sense of accomplishment, like, okay, I didn't not show up for myself. And so having those small wins each day, it's something we can control. Let's be honest, there's so much in life that's handed to us every day that we have zero control over. But there are many things that you can do. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to feel like you achieved something, that you were successful. So even if it's a 5-minute walk around the neighborhood, or you're watching TV and in between during the commercial breaks, you get up and you do some air squats, or you hold a plank. You don't need a gym. You don't even need to leave your house. It's the ability for your brain to check in and go, I'm going to do this. Even though I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it. And I guarantee you it will give you that sense of, okay, it's not that hard. I just have to commit. My brain needs to lock in and say, yeah, I'm going to do it.
I love that. And I think something, and I'd love for you to speak into this, for me, I always feel like confidence grows when I keep commitments to myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And to your point, it may have been, hey, my goal was to go work out for 45 minutes, 4 days a week at the gym. But you know what? If one of those days time didn't permit and you'd get something done at the house, you still kept that promise to yourself. And I think that elevates confidence and, excitement for life. So talk a little bit about, that confidence factor.
Well, and you're entirely right, because again, it's the ability to keep showing up for yourself. And it may sound cliche, but you also think about, what is it that you're modeling? And so again, if you are frustrated with your family members or your friends who aren't showing up for themselves, who are you to speak about that? Who are you to try and kind of encourage them if you're not doing it yourself? You're a fraud. Yeah. So if you want your advice to be accepted, if you want to be encouraging to someone else, you should be modeling it yourself. You should be doing it yourself. And more importantly, if you're not, use that as a lesson to go, okay, how can I relate? If I'm trying to encourage my best friend or my child to pursue more and to realize their greatness or to stay consistent with the goal, well, they're going to take that advice from you if you're doing it yourself, saying, I don't want to get up every morning and do some cardio, but I do it because that shows that I care about myself, puts me in a good mindset every morning for the day ahead. So you can use yourself as an example to inspire others. So sometimes taking yourself out of the equation and focusing on what your actions and your behavior can have on others is the way to get people to do it. Because they may not, oh, they're going to make excuses of, oh, I was too busy or I had so much work to do. But when they have to put that into perspective of how it relates to others, that sometimes can have way more impact.
Yep. Well, and to that comment, one thing I changed years ago, but I just tell people all the time is instead of saying I'm too busy, I always make myself say it wasn't a priority.
Yeah,
And,
yes.
very quickly, I'll all of a sudden be like, no, this is a priority. Like, I need to go do that. I'm not too busy for it, right? But when you say
Yeah.
you're too busy, it rationalizes, oh, well, I just didn't get to it, or I didn't have time for that today. But when you have to tell yourself that's not a priority, all of a sudden you're like, all right, I should probably go do that.
Yeah, that's a perfect perspective. I love that because it's true. It's then you've got to notice the ability that you have to either squash excuses or allow yourself to stay in this spot. And
Yep.
if you're wanting to achieve things, if you're wanting more for yourself, it relies on you. Then you got to be the one to cut the excuses.
I love it. Well, Whitney, I want to say thanks so much for hopping on today and sharing your journey and all these wisdom nuggets. I'm excited to watch your journey, and probably 2-3 years down the road, we'll be having another conversation talking about the growth of all the businesses and maybe the next book. Who knows?
I love it. Heck yeah. Sky's the limit because I'm always striving for more. So who knows?
I love it. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.